Hey guys, it's Goosebumps Completionist, and today I'm bringing you my very first Creeped Out episode review. If you don't know what Creeped Out is, it is a kids' horror anthology show from Netflix, and it sadly only lasted 2 seasons, and it ended back in 2019. But I'm happy to talk about a episode from season 2 today. It was written by Robert Butler, Christina Ray, and B.D. Blake, and it was directed by Bruce McDonald. And the episode in question is Only Child. And I'm going to overlay an image here for review purposes for the video. So, Only Child sticks out to me in Creeped Out because if you're not familiar with the Creeped Out television show, it's essentially, I guess, next to Just Beyond, the latest attempt at making kids horror anthology on television, essentially. Well, in this case for Creeped Out, I think it originated as a British show, and then Netflix bought the rights, made a second season, and it didn't succeed in the way that I guess they were hoping to, in the same way that Black Mirror was succeeding. And I remember when this show kind of got popular, it was poised as the kid-friendly Black Mirror. And I have to say, there are a lot of hidden gems in Creeped Out show. And I'll be happy to talk about this short little series on the channel in the future because I think more people need to find it and see what it has to offer. And like I said, Only Child feels like classic kids horror. I mean, it feels like something that you would see in Goosebumps or maybe Are You Afraid of the Dark back in the day. And it sticks out in my memory for that reason. So off the bat, if you're a fan of like Goosebumps, Are You Afraid of the Dark from the 90s, maybe even The Nightmare Room, possibly even The Haunting Hour, and you've never tried Creeped Out, Only Child, I think, is a good stepping stone because, in my opinion, it offers something similar to a Goosebumps tale called Strained Peas, but in my opinion does it better. So if you're looking for a better version of Strained Peas out there, in my opinion, here you go. But what I recommend it to the general audience out there for, the casual kids horror fans or, people that are kind of curious about trying Creeped Out, maybe this shouldn't be your first episode if you're a casual. I can see this one not impressing many, and I totally get that. So take what I'm saying with a grain of salt. If you're curious to try it, just go ahead and try it. With that out the way, let's get into the plot overview of the story without giving too much away. So the story starts off with a 14-year-old girl named Mia, and she is the main character of the story. She's awaiting in a hospital wing. She's on her phone, kind of counting down the moments until her mom gives her the okay to come in and meet her newborn baby brother that was, birthed because her mom got in a new relationship with her stepfather. And Mia is so excited for the event, she wants to tape some of it, and her mom's like, hey, please don't tape it, I look like a hot mess, I just gave birth. She's like, fine, whatever. And she goes up to meet her new baby brother, and her baby brother seems to be quiet when he's held by his mother, and when she comes in the room, he looks over at her in kind of a menacing way, and when she offers to hold him, he starts to kind of scream and play coy, and she's like, maybe he doesn't like me, and the mom's like, you know what, he's just a baby, get this out of your head. I know it's hard that you were the only child for so long, having a new kid might be difficult to get used to, but he'll warm up to you over time, just give it some time, essentially. So some time does end up passing, though, and Mia is kind of acclimated into her new home lifestyle, where she, gets ready for school in the morning, and there's her stepdad's breakfast all over the counter, and the mom is staying at home looking like a hot mess because, the newborn baby. And one morning the baby is crying, and Mia decides to go and essentially consult her younger brother. And when she goes in the room, she notices that he won't stop crying when she's trying to help him. And she asks him a simple question like, do you like me? Or you don't like me. I think she might state that. And the baby doesn't respond and stops crying. And she takes it like maybe he's trying to respond to her. And she files into the back of her brain. And as the story of the episode goes along, she starts to witness some odd phenomenon going on with her younger brother. She can't really pinpoint exactly what it is, but it may or may not involve this baby monitor that has this weird static. And when she goes to check on her brother at some point of the episode, I mean, this might be the same scene that I just described. When she asks the brother the question and he doesn't cry anymore, she hears this rattling inside of the closet, and it seems like there's some strange paranormal phenomenon going on, shaking the door. And the mom comes in and says, "Hey, what are you doing?" She's like, "Oh, I just opened the closet and all the stuff fell out." And basically it starts to lean into that classic "you gotta believe me" angle when she's pretty much being caught by her parents based on some weird phenomenon surrounded by her younger brother, let's just say. Well, as the story goes along, Mia starts to experience different things with her younger brother, let's just say. And one of these events involve a music box that is playing in the nighttime, and she gets awakened from a sound slumber. She goes down to the baby's room to investigate, and she sees the music box just playing, and then it stops playing, and then she looks at the back of it and sees some type of psychic force twisting the dial to keep it playing. And she's like, well, this is creepy, and it's really loud and keeping everybody up. And she thinks that she sees her brother kind of watching her in the reflection of the music box. And when she goes to investigate, she's kind of holding the box, and then her parents walk in and are saying, "Why are you playing this music at this time of night?" And she's like, "I'm not. It was just playing by itself." And the mom starts to realize that maybe her daughter's having a cry of attention, and her and Mia have a heart-to-heart about, their lives before her mom getting remarried and the new baby and all that. And we do see a glimpse of this early in the episode as well, when Mia's kind of reflecting on her, history up until that point. She used to be a only child in a divorced household with her mom. And then her stepdad got in the picture, and then the younger brother came. And the mom's like, "Look, I understand. I haven't been making enough time for you. It used to be just me and you until we got these two men in our lives. But I promise that I'm going to be more attentive to you, and you don't have to do these things to get my attention. You can just come to me and we can be close like we used to be." And Mia's like, "No, you don't really get it. I'm not doing this." And it plays a role when at a certain point of the episode when she's kind of eavesdropping on her mom and stepdad talking about her behavior and what to do about it. And she kind of admits that she's been, eavesdropping when she gets caught. And the mom and dad don't think that it's all that cool for her to do it. But she's like, essentially, just Mia, remember what we talked about. Let's move on from this. Well, it builds up to an event near the end of the episode where Mia starts to connect the dots with this baby monitor thing that's teased in the episode. It has this weird frequency thing that may or may not coincide with this weird phenomenon that her younger brother seems to display. And when she goes to investigate it, she notices that the brother can psychically or telepathically do something to these blocks that are nearby his crib, essentially, and he can make it spell out some things, right? And she's like, all right, I think I figure out a solution. Because her stepdad loves playing guitar and there's some reverb from the amp. And she's like, if I play this, it keeps you in stasis and it shows your true form. And she takes it over to his crib. She takes the amp and everything and see what it can do to him. And we see something happen to the baby, and perhaps it's not really human, right? Or maybe it's something otherworldly, possibly. It's never really explained, but let's just say, it's implied to be those things. And the parents come in, and Mia, of course, gets caught again. And when the mom storms out because she's upset that Mia keeps doing this, Mia comes to this realization that maybe she needs to suck it up and do this for her mom. Maybe this is actually not a test for her to get over, I guess, kind of losing her mom and having to share her with two new people in her life. Maybe she needs to, step up and just find a compromise with her younger brother because he's going to be here to stay. And that may or may not come into a question she asks her younger brother, and the younger brother possibly provides an answer off screen, of course, because when we get to the ending, we kind of see what the brother is asking of Mia and what this is going to entail for Mia's future. And that, in a nutshell, is what you're going to expect out of The Only Child. Or Only Child, because I don't think it has the in the title. Well, anyway, I'm going to say this up front about the episode here. I think that in terms of baby horror, or like younger baby siblings coming into the lives of like a 12, 13, 14-year-old protagonist, this type of story has been done a few times in kids horror. I think Choose Your Own Nightmare did something similar to this. I think even Haunting Hour did a very close idea to this, but not to this extent. But you can get the same gist of the story. Then, of course, Strained Peas from Goosebumps did this idea. But this has to be, I guess, the best that I've come across. And that's saying this term loosely here, because while it still has a lot of the ailments, if not its own ailments, that even Strained Peas doesn't have, I think it still serves the same message as Strained Peas does. And that is, trying to get over that hurdle of being an only kid, getting a new sibling, and having to not only cope, but try to figure out how to remain optimistic and help out your parents when this new sibling gets in the way of not only you getting close to them, but they're trying to come after you, or, not necessarily come after you, but they get in the way of that former dynamic, and you have to kind of adapt. This episode kind of has its own little thing it's telling in adverse to something like Strained Peas, where you don't really see much adaptation from Nicholas, as he's just constantly crying about his sister doing these things to him. Mia, on the other hand, she has a similar thing, but she's more focused on how does she mend the relationship with her and her brother, and what exactly is her brother, and what does he want with her, or what's his intentions with her, even though he's a little baby. It's all far-fetched stuff. It's played up kind of similar, played up straight, like Strained Peas. There's nothing new, but it's nice. And I think Mia is a little more layered than someone like Nicholas from Strained Peas. Mia has this connection with her mom. It's actually built on in the story. We get this history with the character and their relationship, and that's enough to chew on. And we can see that struggle with Mia in the story, trying to, reconnect with her mom that's been, focused on the new baby, but at the same time, the realization she comes to for her mother is also touching. Some people might dislike that, but I think it makes enough sense given the context of the story. Her mom, lived a single life for so long. It was just her and her mother, and the mom just wants some happiness. And if this baby is just one thing that she has to, settle and compromise with to make her mom happy, she's willing to do so. So I like that twist to the story. I'm going to say this. The concept of the baby here is probably one of my favorite concepts, because normally you play it up like the episode of Strained Peas and Goosebumps, where it's just really poorly done and executed. Here, the baby in the story is treated like a newborn baby, and it's enough in the story where it doesn't come off goofy. It is kind of played up creepy here, and I think the fact that the baby doesn't talk with some bad overlay over the mouth or anything like that, it just shows what it is, kind of, through some reveals. I think it's played up way creepier here, and I'm kind of shocked that they were able to manage to make a baby story creepy, and I have to tip my hat to Creeped Out for making something like this, and I give my props to the director and writers on this one. For tackling such a hard idea to make scary for kids. So, there you go. The acting in this episode was well done. I think the actress who played Mia was really good. Even the parents were great. The baby actor, I don't know what his name is, or, whoever played the kid, but that kid managed to look creepy, and I think they did a great casting choice with him. There's something about his face that looks grumpy and mean, and in that cute baby way, but it works. I don't know what it is about it. It's just perfect casting, I feel, in this episode. The setting is kind of stale. It's one of those stories that take place inside of a home, the whole thing, basically. But at least we get some shots of the hospital early on in the episode. And I do feel like there's some aspects in the story that is missing from other stories like it and sister material out there. So yeah, I it's fine for the setting it's in. And the twists of the story I thought was kind of fun and different. Like the whole baby monitor thing was kind of creepy. It played into something about the monster. While it's never really explained what this monster is, or what the younger brother is, I should say, at least the concept of the noise is kind of resolved, and we find some solution there. And yeah, I mean, it's a weird story. It's kind of bland and, basic in some areas, but sometimes simple can work, especially if they're able to hone in on the tone of it and make the writing good. And here they made something noteworthy. But there are some negatives to this episode, and I'm going to say the first and foremost thing about this episode that I don't really like or enjoy at all is the "you gotta believe me" angle. It is that annoying type. It's not played for humor or anything like that. It's played up serious like Strained Peas. I don't like it in Goosebumps when it's overdone there. I don't like it when it's in Are You Afraid of the Dark? I don't like it when it's in The Haunting Hour. It's no different in Creeped Out. The "you gotta believe me" stuff is old. It gets drawn out sometimes. It becomes a bit beat for beat and kind of repetitive in the episode. And I think this episode feels a little bit more repetitive than even Strained Peas, ironically. It takes a while for the tension to kind of build in it. So, yeah, that is one thing kind of knocking it. The second thing that I think is knocking this episode down quite a few pegs for me is the fact that it almost feels too rip-off-ish of Strained Peas. And I know I keep bringing Strained Peas up, but I swear that the writers or whoever came up with this concept probably saw this in Goosebumps and said, hey, maybe we should try this. I don't think this was a popular episode. I don't know what was going through their minds when they came up with this idea. But it is very similar to that story. And it's kind of, you can consider this a soft remake of sorts, but it doesn't really do much things different, from the Goosebumps counterpart, other than the fact of the baby concept itself and maybe what the baby's entailed to be, and things that the character has in terms of backstory and, swapping the gender of the characters. It's kind of the same idea here. And it's not really that stand out, even though I think it's a little bit better of an idea. It doesn't do what I want it to do. With this type of story, I want something big and outlandish and farcical, comedic, over the top. That's how this idea should be. When we have these played straight stories like this, it kind of sucks the fun out of it. And that's probably one of my other negatives I have with this episode, is that it's not all that fun. You know what I mean? Especially if you get yourself accustomed to Creeped Out, there are some pretty fun ones. There's some scary ones. There's some comedic ones. There's some creative ones. This one just doesn't have any of that. It's probably one of the most bland Creeped Out episodes I've seen, and I've seen the whole show, and that should say something here. And then, I guess one last little thing I could throw at it is the ending. The ending, while I think I like the twist in the self-sacrifice of Mia's character, the ending does kind of end on a whimper. It's not the greatest thing ever. I wish there was more of a pizzazz or a bang with it. And it just is what it is. So that's really all I have to say about this episode, Only Child here. If I had to rate this thing from a 0 to 5 star basis, y'all, honestly, I went back and forth on this. in my head whether I wanted to give this like a fine or a light good. And I think I settled on a fine here. You know what I mean? I don't think that this is a 4 or higher, so it's getting less than a 4. But I am leaning between like a 3.4 to like a 3.6. And where I decided, and this might shock a lot of you, especially if you think this episode's lame, I totally get it. But I decided to give this a C at least. So I decided on a 3.5 at least. And that's what I gave it. I gave this about a 3.5 out of 5 stars. It's a C minus. It's a very, 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 very light good, mostly just fine episode. Like I said, the themes and the thematic messages are there. The characters are nice, well acted. It's actually creepier in terms of this type of product that I've seen of this idea. There are some cool things about it, but at the end of the day, it has some of the similar sins of some other stories. It has an annoying plot thing that I just don't like that fills out runtime, and it feels a bit too basic and bland and not that entertaining all said and done. But I've seen way worse and I've seen way better, not just from this show, just in kids horror in general. I'm just at the point where I've seen so much and I've consumed so much that I know quote unquote mid when I see it. So it's not quite like in that bad context of mid, but this is like just pushing bona fide average to me. So yeah, Only Child. That's my thoughts on this creeped out episode here. Let me know down in the comment section if you've seen this episode before. Do you love this or do you hate this? I'm dying to know. And I'll see you next time.